Welcome, dear viewers, to Couch Warrior TV on YouTube. I am the Couch Warrior, and you are watching The Passage, a Skyrim SE Let's Play featuring this gentleman. Good morning. This is Ettient Jorel, the Thalmor Ranger, in case you all haven't met. Otherwise known as the Hound. So, we got a good night's sleep. We built a nice fire. Ettient actually luxuriated last night. He had a larger than normal meal, and he washed it down with a bottle of Alto wine. We're very close to our destination. Now it is time to carefully start our approach and begin the process of trying to sort of reconnoiter on the fly here. We're in new territory. Even though we have directions on how to get where we're going, this is still new territory. Every tree and rock is something we've never seen before. So just making sure that we are continually on our toes is going to be really important. So we're essentially in enemy territory, as it were. All right. First, we are going to make a rather treacherous crossing here. There we go. Whoa. That is a bad day right there. All right. It looks like this may have just happened recently. Huh, juniper berries. You know what to do with those. Oh, wow. That's a bad way to go. Well, we're not going to take any food off him just because it's a rotting corpse after all. However, he's got pelts. Ooh. Treasure map. Wine is probably okay. A ring worth something, it looks like. Look at Forsworn gauntlets. That's interesting. Makes you wonder if he was some kind of a Forsworn agent, maybe. Well, doesn't matter who you are. That's a terrible way to die right there. At least it was quick. Troll fat. Glow dust. Rislov the Righteous. Excellent. And we get a level. Now this is a book that we're going to keep. Ettient, this is another one that he's going to want to learn about. This Rislov is an interesting character from history. So we're going to keep that one. Being a warrior himself, Ettient is particularly interested in tales and historical accounts of men and women who were, you know, mighty soldiers or warriors. That's interesting. Wow. Looks like the poor guy just came here to relax. do a little fishing and met his end. So we're going to keep that book, and we're going to read that one. We're entering a phase for Ettient where he is still trying to contemplate what his next move is. However, we're starting to see a slowly shifting attitude with Ettient, in that his experience in the Reach has started to change his thinking a little bit about the state of humanity, and particularly the people of Skyrim. After doing all the things that he did in the Reach, he did a lot of kind of unsavory and bloody things, but these are all things that are associated with warfare. I mean, this is warfare. He's a soldier, and he's engaged in warfare, and he's been a soldier, and he's been at war or in hiding or on the run for years. So this is nothing new. However, it's the first time he has ever been able to use his considerable skills and capacity for violence in a way that didn't cause absolute derision, right? He actually had a lot of people in Markarth who respected him and valued him and praised him for his work, and whose lives are now better because of what he did with his considerable skill for violence. Look at that. All right. So he's starting to look at the people around him a bit differently, and I think that's why we're starting to see him do things like take on rescue missions and bounties and stuff like that. He sees an opportunity that he's never seen before to take these skills that he has and actually use them for good. And it's starting to impact his attitude about the world. In addition to that, he's beginning to grow very fond of this country and the people that live in it, because it is it's an absolute paradise for the outdoorsman, and he's nothing if not an outdoorsman. He's made a living working outside and in inclement environments his entire life, whether it was on the battlefield as a scout or on the ocean as a sailor. And he's perhaps starting to believe that the people of Skyrim, the Nords, and those people who've settled here and have lived here for an extended period of time, that perhaps they share some values that he also shares, the kinds of values that just simply were not present among his own people. We're talking about a man here who probably did not fit in particularly well with his own people, right? Whoa. Oh, there's dead bodies. We're starting to smell the carrion now. The location that we need to get to is directly across the road from this fortress. And here we have a fortress with somebody dressed as a mage who was standing above the front gate. And from our well-developed senses, tells us is full of dead bodies. So he's going to check this out for sure. Essentially what we're doing at this point is Ettient is doing a bit of a covert threat assessment, if you will. determining if the occupants of this fort are associated with the bandits that we're going to be going after across the road. And then also trying to determine whether or not this location, being right at the exit from where we're going to be carrying on our main operation, is going to be any threat to our escape. Ooh. This is pretty porous, I'd say. There has to be more than one. Well, there's dead bodies everywhere. Yeah. We're getting something registering over here. The blue flashing, to my mind, represents sound. The purple represents smell. All right. This is a shot of opportunity right here. Let's have a look and take stock of our inventory of poisons and potions before we continue. Okay. Quite a bit of Fortify Marksman. Fortify Marksman, I've been thinking about that, and when does it make the most sense to use it? To my mind, it probably makes the most sense to use something like Fortify Marksman when we're at short range, for example, and we know we're not going to get our long-distance shot bonuses, or when we're in a situation where the opponent is facing us and we know we're not going to get surprised. That extra boost of damage may be enough to help us out in those kinds of situations. Okay, this is a slight incline, so we're fighting gravity on this one a little bit. Okay, that opponent is down, and stealth was perfectly preserved in that shot. Okay, we need to find a way to penetrate this fort that will allow us to get in without marching through a ground level opening, which doesn't seem prudent. Seems like a bad idea. Whoa, 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 there's somebody right down there. Continuing up. It's impossible to tell if they're going all the way inside. Mainly concerned with whether or not they're coming back. Okay, they turned around and headed back somewhere right behind this rock, and it definitely seems to be out of view of anyone else. Ettient is just thinking that if we've got some kind of guard walking a patrol outside the fortress, we want to deal with that person right away. It's unfortunate we didn't know about them sooner, but it's okay. Nothing yet. Alright, well, we can't wait too long. Whoa. How do they get back over there? They didn't walk a complete circle. Did they? Wow. They either walked a complete circle or somehow got past our instincts, which seems crazy to me. Like, I don't know. I don't think they could have walked a complete circle, though, because some of that, the back part of this fortress just doesn't seem like it could be navigated very well, does it? All right, here we go. Oh, yeah. Nordic bow. Base damage of a Nordic bow is better than a Forsworn bow, but our Forsworn bow has been so heavily upgraded and modified at this point that nothing else can touch it. All right, so you can see here, I mean, I've got room for basically a microscopic-sized headshot. And while it would be wonderful to actually make a shot like that, I don't think it'd be smart to attempt a shot like that. Okay, we know we've got an enemy below us here. Instinct has told us that already, but we saw the silhouette of somebody up there. So we're going to find a position high. There's a chest down here, too. We'll take a look at that once we've secured the grounds, I think. Yeah, look at that. Man, this isn't much better. This is shoulders and up. Huh. Their position is working in their favor, not ours, that's for sure. Oh, man. That's leaving a lot more to chance than I'd like to, be honest. Alright, so what do we got? Alright, it's not practical. It's not practical, so we're going to have to take a little risk. This also means we got to reverse the order that we take our enemies in. We got to take the one nearer first. Really? Taking the one closest to us. Will help us secure the courtyard. You know, before we do that, let's talk leveling, shall we? Let's do that. Okay. Again, stamina. That's a no-brainer. Okay. So, head on down the line here. Now, one of the things that we're going to do is... Ettient as a character so far has really been invested in this idea of using his modified Forsworn bow that we affectionately call Mongrel. And we still have a lot of headroom to make this thing more deadly. So that includes, of course, perks. levels in smithing, but also smithing perks, and we haven't even really begun to approach all the opportunities we have for both enchanting and alchemy to help us increase the power of that bow. So this bow, in other words, this bow has a lot of life left in it. So I'm going to invest here in Advanced Workshop, and what this is it's going to let me upgrade a grindstone or a workbench to an advanced version for 2,500 gold. It improves items one tier higher. Items can be improved beyond legendary, and it can also be disassembled by sneaking and allowing you to upgrade another of the same type. So I'm going to take this skill, and then I'm going to specialize in grindstone, which is going to allow us to improve mongrel even more. And then beyond that, we have the smithing specialization perk, which I think is really cool. This would allow Ettient to actually specialize in bows, in archery and bow creation. And we can continue to improve bows specifically another 20% over and above everything we've done to that point. And this is still not including all the bonuses we'll get when we have a full set of smithing gear and improve our alchemy abilities as well. So I think I'm kind of excited to see, after we kind of mess around with all this stuff and do some more adventuring, how we can continue to improve mongrel and make it hopefully the mainstay bow that we stick with throughout this entire playthrough. So I'm going to take Advanced Workshop. Now the cool thing is we're at level 29. We're basically one level away now from 30, and of course when we hit 30 we're going to get a bonus perk as well. So the next time we level up we're going to actually have 2 perk points to work with, which is going to be pretty nice. Alright. So, we're reversing order. We're going from archery to wet work now. And this works in our favor because of the sight lines. Surprise. 11 times damage. Excellent. Gold, moon sugar, Nordic barnacles. We already have one of these robes. Don't need it. All right. Let's observe. We've got 3 doors. 3 potential entry points into this thing. What is this? Oh, Julianos. Okay. So that would make sense. All right. Okay, we're going to ease on up here. Take them by surprise with any luck. Got the roll in for the bonus. Nice. Much more effective than we used to be. Okay, pine thrush egg. Resist cold. And more of the same. Yeah, interesting. These mages basically took this over from the Stormcloaks. Not sure what their motivation was, but it's a little bit of alarming that they can just waltz in and take it away from some well-armed Stormcloaks. Ooh. Or Witch Plate. Ooh, right above us. All right. We've got one straight across from us, but if we do this right, we shouldn't have to worry about that individual. If. Big if. Slay living, wow. Yeah, we did not get the jump on him like we needed to. Alright, we got it done, though. We got it done. I think it's interesting how these mages, they have full sets of these interesting mage armor sets, but they don't wear the boots that come with them. I wonder why that is. I don't know. Alright. Now, we're going to carefully pick this place over. Take what we can. Decent amount of gold. Nords of Skyrim. We want to know about that. Talos Mistake. We want to know about that. It's propaganda, but still fits what we're interested in at the moment. Can I look in here? No. Ettient, I think, his curiosity would be piqued. He's a person who is subconsciously always giving consideration to the motivations of his enemies, trying to understand them. So he'd be very curious as to why a bunch of mages would attack a heavily armed fort and take it over. A person would think that they would make a move like that, fully understanding that at some point somebody was going to come and try and take it back. And in circumstances like that, I tend to think that this is a location that they took not just on a lark, not just because they were some cult group who said we need a place to work from, but that perhaps it was politically motivated in some way. Those are the kind of things that Ettient tries to consider. Catalog of armor enchants. Now, the one we got before was weapon enchants, right? Yeah. What does this actually look like? Okay. Well, that's good. Got about all the cheese I'd want to carry at this point. Haha. Invisibility potion tucked away there. I've never found that before. I'm sure it's been there every single time I search this place. Ah, here we go. See how this goes. I think a lot of our leveling right now is happening on the strength of our, or frequency of our lockpicking and smithing activities. Stealth is not playing as big a role now as it was early on when we were in the Reach. Alright, let's deconstruct a few things here. Okay, this Circlet of Eminent Archery, we are going to disenchant that, because he's not going to wear a circlet. And that gets us the enchant we need, big time. Ring of Minor Stamina. Okay, get that out of the way. Get that out of the way. Okay, so we're currently wearing the necklace. And this ring we're wearing because we found nothing better. So what I'm really interested in is taking something like our face mask and doing a Fortify Archery with this grand soul gem that we brought with us. But before we do that, we need to make sure that we're making the most of this with the right potion. So we want a, what? Fortify Enchanting, and I don't even have one of those right now, so we got to go make one. Okay, so that's going to be one of our goals. However, we still have unexplored areas of the fort, so it doesn't make sense for us to do it now. Let's make sure we're completely secure first. Hopefully our kidnappers have not done away with their hostage yet, but Etienne's not in the business of taking huge risks. For the most part, he's pretty careful. The only times we see him really flub up is when he gets maybe too emotionally out of whack about something and he's doing something from anger or panic, but he's not the kind of guy who panics a lot. So okay, no sudden moves. Whoa, right there, too. Alright, this could get ugly. Nope. This is one of those occasions where we need to be disciplined and make sure that this counts, right? So we're going to put the best Fortify Marksman we have on this, and we're going to use one of the many damage health potions we've got here just to seal the deal. This needs to be a one-shot deal because the second arrow has to kill the other guy. It's the only way we walk away from it, so... yeah, go investigate. Okay, on the ropes. Follow-up shot. Nope. Mess. It's a mess. Alright. Wait for his bowels to evacuate. There it goes. He's dead. See anybody else around? Fire salts, Hagraven feathers. Take back that arrow. Scroll of Blizzard. That's worth something. Ooh, soul gem. Well, this guy had a taproot. Okay, and of course, in Fortimal, the elephant in the room. Let's go deal with it right now. Right here. The Bound Bow spell. The Bound Bow was Fleet's mainstay. Ooh, the Arcturian Heresy. This is another excellent book if you want to understand more about the life and legend of Talos, which Ettient very much wants to understand. Song of Pelennor Volume 8. We don't have Volume 8. We've got 6, 7, and 8 now. Two copies of the Arcturian Heresy. Arcturian, I think, is actually a derivative of Arctis. Isn't it Zarin Arctis? Zarin Arctis, who was the battle mage, he was a battle mage in the service of Talos. And the Arcturian Heresy talks about how Talos came to be who he was. It's brief. I mean, it's an abbreviated, an abridged history. But there's some really great stuff in there, especially about Wolfhearth as well, who was... It's kind of interesting because Talos, through most of his history, as he built the Empire, right, he had two advisors. He had Zarin Arctis. I think it's Zarin Arctis, and Wolfhearth. And Wolfhearth, of course, is a pretty... Ooh, a black soul gem. A pretty enigmatic character, and a character who a lot of people believe has had a lot more influence on the history of the Empire than most people realize. It just depends on what stories you believe, I guess. I will tell you that from Etienne's perspective, his basic belief system about the gods has really not changed. But to his mind, if ever there was somebody worth paying respects to, the only one that he's found that he feels is worthwhile, to be honest, is Talos, because he's the only one that Etienne can identify with. He's a warrior. He understands the battlefield. And if you would to put it in its simplest terms, as it pertains to Etienne's psychology, Talos is the baddest badass to ever throw his chip in the game. And many would say that in the end, he won. He basically conquered Cyrodiil and then eventually went on from that to form the Empire, defeated the elves, found a way to use the remnants of the Numidium in his favor. I mean, who does that? How powerful do you have to be to do that, or how smart? And then in the end, according to legend, ascended to godhood. I mean, holy hell. That's a guy who knew how to play the game, and I think Etienne would really admire that. So we're starting to see a shift in Etienne's attitude, not just about Skyrim and this place and its people, but about the god that they revere and who this individual was, who this man was. And there's something very interesting to me about the juxtaposition of a high elf coming to revere and respect Talos. That has interest to me. So Fortify Enchanting, we can do it, right? Oh yeah, we got plenty of stuff for that. All right, we just need to put our gear on. So chew on that a little bit, viewers. Chew on that a little bit. You're getting a little bit of a glimpse into the direction that our protagonist is going. He's beginning to love the land and respect its people, and he's struggling and striving very hard to try and understand their psychology and their religious practices and all of that kind of stuff, right? There's something there for him. There's something intriguing about it that he's exploring. So I think that makes for a really interesting potential around his story arc, and some really interesting changes in his outlook on the world. So food for thought, y'all. Okay. So yeah, we can do more marksman over here, which we're definitely going to do. Fortify smithing, I can't remember how many of those we got. Restore health just seems like a good idea almost all the time. Ooh, we found another property. Slow. Ah, Deathbell and River Betty. Was that it? I don't... So if we take Deathbell and River Betty, target moves at 50% speed for 37 seconds. Damages the target's health by 37 points. To me, that's like the ultimate poison, right? But that's just because it happens to be my favorite. Everybody I talk to swears by a different formula. But what I want to do is I want to take our normal slow and see what happens if we add something exotic to it. Like, what happens if we put a Daedra heart in there? Would that do anything? I don't know. We've never used a Daedra heart for anything before. I don't know. I don't think it did anything. So let's... Huh. Let's see, Daedra heart. Yeah, we didn't... It didn't do anything. It didn't even uncover any kind of a property for it, which is interesting. Maybe it doesn't have... Well, it's got to have some alchemy properties, right? Otherwise, what are we doing here? Interesting. No problemo. These heavy armor ones... We might as well make some. I mean, we do use heavy armor a percentage of the time. We don't use it a lot. Damage magicka. Okay. So what kind of bennies are we going to get here? 7%. Yeesh, that's terrible. That is terrible. Okay, let's quit this. It occurs to me that it might be a good idea for us to quickly take a look at our inventory to make sure we don't have any potions to fortify enchanting already. I don't think we do. Usually it's labeled like Enchanter's Filter or whatever, so I'm not seeing anything here. Skirmisher's Filter. My hope was that if I could come up with something good, that since we have, you know, if I could do a decent potion, since we have everything at our disposal right here, I'd create an enchanted item right on the spot, and it might help us in the next phase of our mission, but I don't know. 7%? That hardly seems worth it, does it? Well, let's do it anyway. Why not? Let's just do it. We'll only make one. We've got lots of ingredients for this, so we'll just make one. And when we get to a point where we actually find or purchase a decent enchanting potion, because it's going to be a while before we can make a decent one, we really haven't invested at all in alchemy yet, and that's going to have to start soon. Then we'll just make a new mask and we'll do it. We'll do one that's a little bit more powerful. Thanks, everybody, for coming back to the story. I know I say that every single time, but you know why I say it? Because I am truly grateful. Truly grateful. Even as I'm making this recording, we are on the cusp of hitting the 8,000 subscriber mark, and I can't tell you how amazing that is to me. So I have you all to thank. Thanks for spreading the word and all that. I also wanted to say a quick thank you to all of you out there who were able to attend our panel discussion live stream last weekend. It was amazing. It was really amazing. And those of you who were not able to attend the live stream, fear not, we've got 2 copies of it out there on Couch Warrior TV. There's the abridged and unabridged version. Even the abridged version, where I cut out, you know, all of our, you know, getting everybody connected and idle chit-chat during break times and stuff like that, it's still 3 hours long. So it was the most amazing discussion. It went so well. All right, let's pay attention to what we're doing here so I don't screw this up. We're going to do the face mask, and we're going to put Fortify Archery on that. And we've got a black soul gem, but I'm not going to use that. We'll do the grand soul gem. That gives us a 16%. Craft that puppy. All right, we got a nice little bonus on the old enchanting there. We've got a couple of lesser soul gems too. I imagine we could do something here. How about our gold diamond ring? I guess technically I could put archery on that too, couldn't I? Yeah, but that, yeah, my plan was to use the lesser soul gems just for leveling. So let's take a look at our enchantments again. Alchemy. Alchemy, alchemy, alchemy. Do we have a ring? We've got a circlet, we've got gauntlets, and a necklace. Why don't we do alchemy? Of course, a lesser soul gem doesn't get us diddly squat. So if we're going to use the lesser soul gems, I guess the smart thing to do would be to look for value, because we're going to sell them, right? So far, yeah, so far the archery, yeah, the archery has the best value. So, yeah, let's go ahead and make that. So essentially what I'm doing, for those of you who are kind of new to all this, these are all the items that I have in my inventory that are eligible for receiving an enchantment. So, and these are the enchantments that I have that I can put on items. So the way this works is, say if I wanted to put Fortify Archery on something, I can select that enchantment here, I come over here to items, and this will show me all the items in my inventory that are eligible to have that enchantment placed on them. Not all enchantments can be placed on all pieces of equipment, so that's a kind of a quick and dirty way to figure out, you know, what you got going, right? So I could add archery to, say, a witch plate hood. So what I'm doing is I'm selecting the item, I'm selecting the enchantment that'll go on it, And then I'm selecting the soul gem that'll be sort of the power source, if you will, to imbue this thing with the enchantment. And depending on what type of soul gem I select, that will determine how powerful the enchantment will be. The more powerful the enchantment, the more points I get towards skill advancement. In this particular case, I'm just using, you know, these lesser soul gems to make some items, and that helps me go up levels in enchanting. It's like practicing the same way that we do with smithing. So I've got a greater soul gem here. Let's use that as well. Why not? Witchplate greaves, gauntlets. Let's do the gauntlets. And again, I've got two options here. We can do alchemy. Now you can see here, when I do archery with a greater soul gem, I get a better bonus, right? That's kind of how all that comes together, if you will. So, yeah, let's just do that, right? And I did select the greater one, right? Yeah. So the black soul gem, that's important. That's something that I'm not going to use for practice. That's something that is very powerful. It's the most powerful soul gem you're going to find. Human and elven souls can be trapped in a black soul gem. It's the only type of soul gem that can harness the souls of sentient creatures like humans and elves, for example. And then, you know, there's spells and other enchantments that you can use to take empty soul gems and fill them with souls, but I'm not going to get into all that. All right, so let's do a little evaluation here and see where we're at. All right, Necklace of Rejuvenation, that is our go-to. Ring of Stamina, that has typically been our go-to. Okay, leather helmet. Our face mask. Now, that's not bad, a 16% damage bonus. Given how low level we are, not bad. Now, obviously, we burned a grand soul gem to do it, but if I'm making enchantments for my own use, I'm never going to even attempt them until I have either a grand or a black soul gem to work with, because I want to maximize whatever the potential of that enchantment is. All right, are we back in shape here? We are back in shape. Now, if we go back to apparel, I've got this Ring of Minor Stamina, which has been giving us a 23-point stamina bonus. That's kind of been our go-to. We've got our Gauntlets of Major Archery, which are standard. These are giving us a 28% bonus on archery, which, you know, affects our damage output, of course. But then we also created this gold and diamond ring. See, it's only 2% because we used a lesser soul gem, but the option here, of course, would be that I could select this gold ring and this Ring of Minor Stamina would be removed from his finger, so we would no longer get our stamina buff, but we would get our archery buff instead. Given that it's only a 2% archery bonus, it's better for us to have the stamina boost, I think. Much better. So that's what we're going to stick with here, but I just thought I would kind of show you all how that works if you're new to all this crafting business. So if we look at our Forsworn Bow, then we can see here by looking at it what its current base damage is. 54 base damage. That is a number, I think, that's formulated based on how much we have smithed it up or how much we've improved it, combined with our skill level, right? And then we can see the damage output here is at 68. And this is where any enchanted items that we have on us that are giving us a boost are sort of factored in. So, and typically with a lot of these things like, you know, Fortify Archery and One-Handed and these kind of combat skills type of things, we're looking at, in the vanilla game, we're looking at a default number of enchanted items at 4. Now, there are mods, of course, that you can load for Skyrim that allow you to do things like disenchant items that weren't intended in the vanilla game to be disenchanted, for example. To wear rings on both hands. In some cases, there are mods that allow you to wear rings on all of your fingers at once, which is, to me, that's a little bit over the top. But I have definitely used the left-hand rings mod, which I find completely plausible. Why couldn't you wear a ring on both hands? That doesn't make any sense, right? And why couldn't they both be magic? So I have used left-hand rings from time to time. And then we also have the addition of things like the face mask. The face mask does not come in the vanilla game as a separate item. So in this particular case, if I wanted to, I could enchant my hood and my mask separately, both with the, Fortify Archery, and increase my bonuses. So, just saying. So, sorry for that little primer, but I know we have quite a few people in the audience who are new to the game and are actually considering playing, which is kind of exciting. So it's, I think, helpful to go over some of that information. Just try not to do it too much. All right, it is getting on towards evening, and we are now on the attack. We need to get our rescue mission going. Okay, I have some kind of a process going on in the background here. You can see the spinning wheel in the lower right corner. That is affecting my frame rate. So I'm going to get up in here to a place where we can save, and I'll investigate what that is. Lost Knife Hideout. This is the place we want to be. If I had to guess, I would say that could be some kind of a Java update going on or something. I don't know what it is, but it's super annoying. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to bid you adieu for this episode. I want to thank you for tuning in and following Etienne's adventure, and I will see you next time.